Cooper.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kukucha, in your opening statement, you said with respect to the improper COVID payments, of which 38.5 million tax dollars improperly went out the door according to the Auditor General, not to mention 63 conflicts of interest involving board members in which millions were funneled into companies in which board members had interests in, you said that you relied in good faith on legal advice. Is the legal advice that you, as a member of the board, received from one Mr. Ed Vandenberg?
Sorry, I was muted by the host. Yes, it was, Honourable Member. Okay.
The same Ed Vandenberg who sat on the two-person SDTC member council, correct?
You're correct, Honourable Member.
Yeah. So you're a lawyer, Mr. Kukucha, through you, Mr. Chair. Do you not see a conflict there that Mr. Vandenberg sat on the member council while at the same time providing legal advice to the board and being remunerated for such service?
There were discussions at the board about the structure of the member council and the challenges with it, and my understanding was management was trying to work with government to try and find a way forward with that. But yes,
Mr. Vandenberg had been providing legal advice to the board on other matters as well. It wasn't just in respect of the improper and unlawful COVID relief payments, right?
I keep getting muted. I apologize, Honourable Member. Yes, he was providing advice, and I do.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Cooper, just 1 second. So I'm sorry. I think what's happening is that when a witness is done speaking, we return to a member. You're being muted. So if you could just unmute yourself to both witnesses, avant que vous parlez, s'il vous plaît. If you could unmute yourself, that's what's happening. So. It doesn't always happen. I think it's because of just the, well, anyway, for today, that's what has to be done. So, Mr. Cooper, you have 3 minutes, 15 seconds. The floor is yours again.
Mr. Kukucha, have you read the SDTC's enabling legislation, the Canada Foundation for Sustainable Development Technology Act? I presume you have.
You do need to, as I said, you do need to unmute yourself, sir. But back to you. There you go. Yeah, over to you.
Honourable Member, I have not read the entire act. I have read the policies related to SDTC.
As a board member, surely you were familiar with the enabling legislation. I mean, I find it incredible if you weren't. I mean, that's a big problem in and of itself.
Sorry, I keep getting muted. I apologize, Honourable Member. I have a general overview of the legislation, but I have not read it in detail.
It sure isn't actually a very big piece of legislation. It would take all of 15 minutes to go through, and if you had bothered to read the act, you would have known that at section 16 sub 2 it states, quote, "No member shall profit or gain any income or acquire any property from the foundation or its activities." That's precisely what was happening in the case of Mr. Vandenberg. So not only was he in a conflict of interest in providing legal advice, he was breaking the law. Isn't that right?
Based on your statement, Honourable Member, I will take it at face value. I would only comment that once we got into the special committee process, I actually did flag for the board and management the issue of Mr. Vandenberg and ask he be removed, but he was not removed at that time.
So, again, conflicts of interest, money improperly going out the door, and reliance supposedly in good faith on counsel who was in a blatant conflict of interest and who was in blatant contravention of the SDTC Act. I mean, it's just unbelievable that you can come here with a straight face and defend the practices of SDTC and its board in the face of that. And speaking, Mr. Kukucha, of law-breaking at SDTC, which you were complicit in, Mr. Vandenberg was part of a two-member council, a council that under the Act is required to have 15 members and requires 5 members to achieve quorum, and yet this two-person council appointed 5 directors to the SDTC board, all unlawful appointments. How do you explain that?
Honorable member, when I joined the board, this system was in place and operational for many, many years. I did flag, and the board did have discussions.
In fact, the Auditor General, in her damning report, which you won't even concede or accept, said that the board that you sat on was complicit in this illegal activity. The board supported the law breaking. Isn't it part of a culture of corruption, self-dealing, and law breaking? Isn't that what was going on? Because I would say to you, Mr. Kikucha, it raises serious questions about why the board would have been complicit in having an unlawful two-member council. It was all about making sure Liberal insiders and cronies of board members were appointed as directors so that they could get a piece of the action to pad their pockets in a corrupt racket that makes the sponsorship scandal look small by comparison. That's what happened.
Hear, hear.
You have the floor, sir, if you'd like a response.
Yeah, honorable member, I can only speak to my own conduct. I did not have, there was no corruption that I directly saw or was aware of or participated in. Errors were made. We acknowledge those. I did accept the results of the Auditor General's report, and candidly, I did flag for the board issues with both the Members' Council and Mr. Vanderberg, but they were not acted upon. As a new member to the board, all I could do was my best to raise issues, see if they were dealt with, and try to move the organization forward in a positive way. But I will concede errors were made for sure.